Hey everybody, it's Etherblade here, and I'm just killing time until the following starts, so I'm going to do a short review on The Walking Dead, Season 4, Episode 9. This was what I'd like to call a Michonne and Carl-centric episode. It's just two badass characters, basically, that are able to, you're able to see kind of the world through their eyes and see like their narrative. Michonne's still at the prison. There's zombies everywhere. She takes out a few. I think she's still searching, for who's left. And when she realizes nobody's left, she kind of leaves. But before she goes, she takes 2 zombies and turns them into her pets. Carl is full of anger and resentment for what happened to everyone who's basically died since the show has begun. I understand that Rick wants Carl, to respect him as Rick is his father, but Rick is not really a good example for him because Rick made a lot of terrible mistakes. I mean, terrible mistakes. As far as not killing Shane and then not killing the governor and just allowing, giving Merle the okay to take Michonne to the governor without even really sitting down and thinking about it, and then changing his mind. And basically, even though people are saying, and I kind of believe that Merle kind of martyred himself, he wouldn't have put himself in that situation, if Rick hadn't been so gung-ho to, just get rid of the problem, Michonne. Here goes. What else? Carl doesn't want Rick taking care of him anymore because Carl can handle it himself. As we've seen in the past couple seasons, Carl's fine by himself. Carl doesn't need Rick. But for whatever reason, Rick feels like he needs to, still protect him when Rick can't even walk. Like, he's just a mess. The governor just messed him all up. And because he's, like, walking slow and his footsteps, I guess, are ragged, that's how Michonne knows, I guess, to follow the footsteps. But at first, she doesn't pay him any mind. Rick and Carl basically go looting, I'll call it looting, searching for food and stuff, and they reach one location where Carl just becomes extremely disrespectful because he's just had enough of his father and yells and carries on, and then a zombie pops out of the kitchen. Rick's first, intent is to, or should I say, his first move is to take a tiny axe and stick it right in the zombie's forehead like this. It didn't do much, so Carl just fired his gun, and Rick gets upset, but I understand why Rick is upset because from season 2, zombies follow sound. Even season 1, they follow sound. So that basically was telling the zombies exactly where they were. And every bullet counts is what Rick says. And Rick knows what he's talking about, but Carl is just not hearing it. He's yet another character that I've come across that's just not having it. As I said, Michonne sees the footsteps when she's walking with her new pets, but Michonne just keeps on going. They come across a house that's just ransacked. There's no food, there's nothing in it. It's like either the family came and took all the food, or the house was looted before they got there. Rick, for whatever reason, insists on still trying to protect Carl, even though he can't, like I said, can't walk, can barely stand, but he's still trying to take care of Carl, and Carl's just basically like, I don't need protection, I can do this. And as I said, someone ransacked the house, took all the food. Carl went up to a second floor bedroom that must have been a teenager's bedroom. He saw the video games and everything, and I guess that's Carl seeing the life that he should have now that he's basically a teenager, but this whole end of the world zombie apocalypse thing took away his adolescence from him, if you will. Carl sees an extension cord behind a flat screen TV and decides to take that to tie the front door, because Rick wants to push a couch in front of the door, but Carl ties it with like a knot, and Rick is kind of upset by that, but Carl, to put more salt in the wound, basically says, you know, Shane taught me how to do this knot. Remember Shane? Like, Rick needed to hear that name. Like, I needed to hear that name. Shane is the one character I just didn't like Shane. John Barenthal is, like, he's fantastic. He's on Mob City now, and he's just a great actor, but Shane, even in the comic book, Shane was just crazy. Carl is pissed, and like I said, I can understand why after everything that's happened. Everything seems to be coming to a hilt for Carl. Carl's just basically had enough. So, as I said, Rick's injuries are bad. Rick can't even move around. He just lays there. Michonne opens another scene where she's using her katana knife to cut cheese. It's a weird scene. It's like basically domestic. She's got this like studio apartment or something, living there with her boyfriend or a husband or something, and her kid, and the scene is so positive, then it just goes downhill, becomes so dark, and the next thing you know, she sees both of the men at the table with no arms, and then you realize, I guess, they are the pets. Michonne wakes up in a sleeping car with her new pets, sleeping in a car with her new pets outside of the door, just kind of floating and chilling. Carl gets up and goes to get something to eat, because Rick tried to get him to eat some brand cereal that they found, and Carl didn't want it, and Rick was like, you're going to eat it, and Carl's like, no, I'm not going to eat it, I'm not hungry. Well, Carl eats it. Rick is laying there on the couch, that's by the door, he's really sick, and he looks like hell, and he's just, you're kind of worried about Rick, like, what the hell is going to happen to Rick? And, Carl goes back up to the teenager boy's room. I think it's a boy, but he goes up to the teenager's room and is, like, eating and reading some book. And all of a sudden, he decides to try to wake up his father, Rick, because Rick had fallen asleep, but Rick won't wake up, and he's yelling and he's screaming and he's carrying on, and Rick refuses to wake up. So Carl hears these zombies by the front door. And I guess if they keep pushing, they're basically going to get in, even with the knot. So, at the doorknob. So, Carl decides, you know what, I'm going to go and I'm going to fix this. So, Carl goes outside, he lures them, and it makes you think of Lily. I think that's her name, Lily. And it's, the little girl, the one whose father died, and she basically killed that other character, I guess the girl with the curly hair. She killed her when she came over there with the gun outside of the prison. But I'm starting to think that that's not her name. She has a different name. If you remember her name, definitely put that down in the comments and just let me know. He's walking backwards, and all of a sudden, like, the two zombies are close. He shoots them both in the head. No, he's walking, and the zombies get too close, and Carl shoots at the two zombies, shoots the other one, and then, like, all the zombies fall on top of him, and he's able to get from under them. But what ends up happening is that he is so upset and so overcome that he just vomits up all that brand cereal. It was not a pretty sight when I saw it. it was a good decision to shoot and kill the zombies because you had to save yourself, but then it's a bad decision because zombies are like a big, huge welcome mat to zombies. Bullets are a welcome mat to zombies. Like, the zombies in The Walking Dead seem to be following the sound. So wherever the sound is, the zombies are going. But once he finishes vomiting, he says, you know what, I win. And he keeps repeating, I think he repeats, this is the second time he says I win, because he says I win to Rick after he kills the zombie. And I think that's because Rick kept saying I win to Shane. It was a whole thing with him and Shane. So then Carl decides to take out on his own. He goes back to that house where there was the food, and he's like in search for more food. Meanwhile, Michonne is with her pets. When she's walking like with a herd, and she sees this one pet this one zombie that's a black girl with long twists and in her hair, like her hair is like long and twisty. And I don't know if she's reminded of herself or she's just, it's a moment of insanity. I'm not even sure. All I know is that she's just walking with this herd and none of the zombies are messing with her. Rick goes back to the house. In fact, no, Rick goes back to the house Carl goes back to the house before he goes to search for food. He tells the father, and tells Rick, you know what, I don't need you anymore. You could not protect our group. You wanted to hide and play farmer. They counted on you. You were their leader, but now you're nothing. I'd be fine if you died. Carl goes out on his own to that house with the food and finds more food. He sees a dead little parakeet or whatever that was, a canary, just dead on the ground, dead on the floor. He searches one room and this zombie pops out of nowhere, and this zombie is like, nothing can stop him, and Carl tries to shoot at him, but I didn't count the bullets, but apparently he ran out of bullets, so Carl's trying to hit him, everything, can't get away from the zombie. The zombie's like, has him on the floor, grabs his ankle. Carl just lets him have his shoe and somehow closes him into the door, but his ankle was nearly like chomped. And Carl lost his shoe. He finds a huge can downstairs of something, and it's just like it puts a smile on his face. Back to Michonne, she's traveling with the herd, and something inside of her, for whatever reason, just snaps, and she just takes out every zombie, including her pets. She just looks sad, tired, and alone, and just overcome, and it's just, I mean, I feel for her with that. She takes out her fury on all the zombies. That's what I put down in my notes. She's just really emotional. And Michonne goes back to those footprints and decides to follow them. I believe that Daryl taught her that. I see you, Dixon, I see you. Is Rick turning to a zombie is my main question when after Carl returns home and he falls asleep. Rick is just sitting there just wheezing, and Carl's just scared, like, is he turned to a zombie? Is he okay? I mean, he did break his rib, and maybe his lung maybe slightly collapsed, so maybe after the governor, attacked him, so maybe that's why he's breathing strangely, but he does sound like a zombie. He sounds exactly as Milton did when Milton died and came back right before he bit Andrea in season 3. Carl tries to shoot him, but then he can't do it. And like the way that the scene is set up with like the dark shroud over Rick's face, it makes you think like Rick is a zombie, and you're just like freaking out like, oh my god, he can't be the zombie. Carl realizes he can't do it, and his father reaches for him in whatever form it is that he's in and grabs Carl's foot, and Carl's just like, I can't do this. He's like, so if you're just going to kill me, he said, just go ahead and kill me. He said, I can't take care of myself. And we then hear Rick say, Carl, he said, go outside and stay safe, meaning he feels like he's dying. But Carl won't leave his father. Carl, I guess, realized after getting in that scuffle with those zombies, and then with that crazed zombie in the house who nearly took out his ankle, Carl realizes, you know what, I might be able to shoot, but I need my dad, and I respect him for that. So long as he doesn't do anything crazy for the rest of this season, because what he did in season 2, getting Dale killed, I'm still side-eyeing him for that. Michonne basically follows the tracks, and she goes to the locations where Carl was. And there's a couple zombies inside, and Michonne, you know, I think she takes out a couple zombies, and then she's just like talking to her friend. No, I don't think there were any zombies in there. And she's talking to Mike, who is her husband, lover, boyfriend, and she said, you know, I missed you even when I was with you. So it makes me believe that something happened to her, and that's the reason why she killed. And the reason why she's the way she is, and why she had those 2 pets in the beginning. Something happened, like I said, and Michonne was the only one left alive. That child died, and I guess that did something with her. Her son died. Hopefully this season they go into that and you get to see what happened. Like, I don't want to know what happened, but I want to know what events led up to that point. Michonne then says, I know the answer. He said, I know why. So then a couple zombies pop up and she takes their heads off. She's walking. Carl starts talking to Rick, and he says, Dad, we had food, but I ate it. He said 112 ounces of pudding. There must be some good pudding. Chocolate pudding? Oh my God. They act like Judith is dead. I don't think Judith is dead. I think Judith is still alive. I think somebody took her. I hoped it was Michonne. Hopefully Carol came back and got her. Somebody had to get that child, because the fact that they left her in season 4.8, episode 4.8, was kind of weird. But I guess with all the chaos, the girls brought her out. I don't know what it is with this season, but, or this part of the season, but basically they're acting like she's dead. I've got my fingers crossed, and I really hope this child is alive. I made a correlation with all the seasons, because every season revolves around Rick. Like, season 1, Rick found the group. Season 2, Rick killed the dissension in the group, especially after Dale, Randall, and Shane died. He had had enough. Season 3, they were displaced, but they found a place to go, and then they were under attack. So I guess season 4 is Rick trying to walk away from his responsibilities and only to be dragged back kicking and screaming. Michonne makes it to the house where Rick and Carl are, and she knocks on the door twice. And Rick and Carl, they both pull out their guns, and Rick looks through the door, and I guess he sees her. He smiles. He turns to Carl. He said, it's for you. Raccoon, I see you too. I see you too. I swear this episode was fantastic. I'm looking forward to next week's episode, and let me tell you, somebody's gonna die from the original cast. They've been talking about, they've been hinting it. And I get the weirdest feeling it's going to be Maggie. I don't know why, because I knew Herschel wasn't going to make it outside of that prison. Like, his days were numbered. But Maggie, I think Maggie's the one that's going to die. She's like I've been saying on my videos, she's the only comic book character. She's one of the comic book characters that's alive in the comics right now. And if her death will probably be a big mess. Like, it'll really, really kill the group. As I've said before, it'll destroy the group. I have no soul ship. I like all the ships. I like Rickon, Dixon, Carol, Bethel, Rickle, all those crazy ships. So I live in solidarity of all the ships, but I do love Dixon. Those will be some badass children with a baby named Jasper. That Jasper thing on Tumblr is fantastic. Anywho, I'm going to go and watch Almost Human and prepare for the following. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. Have a happy and blessed evening, a wonderful week, and a fabulous holiday. This is Etherblade from New Jersey. Peace.